Thank you so much for joining me in this discussion. I am just so happy to be able to be involved in this, and I'm so happy to have you along for the ride. Following the death and resurrection of Jesus' disciples were reinvigorated by Jesus' resurrection. They were empowered by the coming of the Holy Spirit. The first Jesus followers, so the early church, the first Jesus followers were all Jews, 100%. They did everything that other Jews did. They engaged in all of the practices that other Jews engaged in. They held beliefs that fit on the spectrum of what other Jews believed. And in addition to that, in addition to their Judaism, they didn't stop being Jews. There was no reason for them not to. In addition to their Judaism, they held convictions about Jesus of Nazareth, who he is and what he means. So in addition to all of their other Jewish practices, so they went to the synagogue on the Sabbath. They celebrated and observed Jewish holy days. They studied the Torah. They prayed in exactly the same way that other Jews prayed. In addition, they gathered very early on Sunday mornings to worship Jesus and to worship God through Jesus, and to do what for the time being let's call Jesus stuff, to do Jesus stuff. They met on Sunday mornings because that is the day on which the Lord was raised from the dead, Sunday morning, the first day of the week. Now in those days, that was a work day for everyone. So they gathered very, very early, partly because they had to get through so they could all get to work, but partly because Jesus was raised very, very early. So they would worship and do their Jesus stuff, strengthen one another, and pray special Jesus prayers like, Our Father in heaven, may your name be sanctified, let your kingly rule come. We call it the Lord's Prayer. But there was no opposition for them between being Jewish and following Jesus. They were sharing the message of who Jesus is and what they believe Jesus means with other people. First with other Jews, and then tentatively with people who were not Jews. Because in those days there was a whole category of people who were hangers-on at the synagogue. They were non-Jews, but they were very attracted to Judaism. They would be listening in during synagogue services. They would be listening in to the reading and the interpreting of Torah, and to the extent that they could, they would participate in the prayers. And some of them started being interested in the words about Jesus. As some of them begin to respond to the message, we begin to get the formation of what we could properly call the church, a thing that's not quite at one with the synagogue. Again, I'm so glad that you've chosen to be part of this conversation, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Keep well.